Believe it or not, a real-life Planet of the Apes does exist in an isolated area located deep in the jungles of West Africa. It's home to dozens of retired laboratory chimpanzees who were at one point used for medical research. These chimps are practically heroes. They've managed to survive disease, 2 civil wars and numerous medical tests and experiments. The apes are former residents of the Liberian Institute of Biomedical Research, Vilab II, which played a pivotal role in developing treatments for ailments such as hepatitis during the 1970s. It was shut down in the mid-2000s due to growing pressure from animal rights activists, and the apes were transferred to a remote Liberian island in the middle of Farmington River, to live a life of quiet retirement. The island, known to locals as Monkey Island, is home to over 60 chimps who only allow familiar caretakers to approach its shores. Their story was covered in a short documentary film called Island of the Apes, made to promote the 2014 film Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. As trouble began to brew in Liberia in 1989, which would result in 2 gory civil wars, the Vilab program was at threat. In the midst of all the violence, they were struggling to continue research and also protect the chimps that were released onto the islands. Betsy decided to stay on, even though that meant putting her life at risk, simply because the hundreds of animals needed to be fed. Eventually, she found herself compelled to help the human victims of war, as well. Both the lab and its employees managed to remain unharmed until 1993, when the Civil War finally made its way to their doorstep. Terrorist forces stormed into Betsy's home one day and went after her husband Brian, assuming that he had worked for former Liberian President Charles Taylor. Sadly, Brian was shot and killed. Much to Larson's surprise, when he made a second visit to the island along with the caretakers, the chimps were very well behaved. This time it was clear that the chimps were very familiar with the caretakers and trusted them completely, he said. As for the chimps themselves, although they were infected with diseases like hepatitis when they were originally retired here, many, if not all, have since fully recovered, he added. The chimps truly to appear happy and well adjusted to this sanctuary of their own.